how do you choose a therapist? It's really difficult because there are so many different kinds of therapists, and if you haven't got some idea of how they all work, how can you possibly choose one? Hello, I'm Andrew G. Marshall. I have 30 years experience as a marital therapist. I also help individual people look at their relationships as well. And to try and simplify things, I've divided it up into 4 different kinds of therapists. And let's see what those 4 kinds are and which one might be right for you. The first kind of therapists are ones who are going to do a lot of listening to you. And that's going to be the main focus, listening to you. This is often called person-centered counselling. And the benefits are you really get a chance to hear yourself and actually understand yourself. If you've got a question like, what should I do? What you'll find is the therapist will probably turn it back to you and say, what do you think? If you ask them, should I hire a private detective to see if my husband is cheating on me? The response would be, well, what would be the advantages of doing that? What would be the disadvantages? So what they're trying to do is help you find the solutions for yourself. They're going to be silent, you're going to do most of the talking. The next kind of therapist, the second kind, is one that's going to be completely opposite to that. They're very much more a coach for you. These are sometimes called behavioural therapists. And what they're trying to do is help you change your behaviour. Cognitive behavioural therapy, or CBT, is a form of behavioural therapy. And this is about teaching you skills and different ways of doing things. So sometimes it could be a teaching kind of relationship. They'll also help you find alternative ways of seeing things. So they might help you challenge your thoughts. So it could be that some of the thoughts and the scripts in your head are unhelpful, and they will help you challenge that. So you can see this is far more actually present rather than just listening to you. The third kind of therapy is what I call depth work. Now, this is sometimes called analysis. It could also be called psychodynamic counselling. What does psychodynamic counselling mean? Well, it's actually saying what happened to you in your childhood has a big impact on how you feel today. And you might think, oh, that's a terribly long time in the past, but actually your very first relationships with your mother, your father, your siblings is going to set up your expectations of how you're going to be treated by other people. So if, for example, they didn't listen to you, your expectation is you're not going to be listened to by other people. So the great advantage of depth work is you can begin to see the layers of what's happening. So let's take a couple example. You could have, and this is an example I had a couple that spent a lot of time arguing about whether the husband should clean the children's shoes for them. Now the wife said, if you love the children, you would clean their shoes for them. And he said, no, I've got better things to do. And so on one level, it was about the children's shoes. That's what I would call the presenting problem. But there was a layer underneath that, which they were sort of aware of, which was about having different ideas about parenting. The mother thought that you showed your love by doing things, and that a caring parent would help the child. Whereas the husband, the father, saw things differently. He thought that a parent taught, and he was interested in actually teaching the children clean their own shoes. He thought they could actually make their own way in the world. They didn't need their hands holding all the time, was something he would say. So you can begin to see, although actually it was about cleaning the shoes, there was another layer which was about how they should parent. But there was another layer underneath that, the sort of unconscious one, which is actually a lot of the way we parent is about how we were parented ourselves. And in this case, the mother actually felt quite abandoned by her parents and therefore was determined not to give that to her children. And so that once we began to connect, actually it was not just about how she parented, but how she felt that she'd been parented, we actually got another layer to it. So depth work can be really important. So what's the fourth kind? Well, I would call this a sort of combination where you're using all those three different things. Sometimes it's called integrative. And in a combination, you're doing a lot of listening. You're actually doing some coaching. I personally believe it's really useful to teach you skills and find different ways of communicating and different ways of looking at things. And we need the depth to understand what's going on. We might not stay there the whole time because it's not about your childhood, but it's actually about how your childhood affects you today. And you do need to understand that, but we're not going to be living in the past. So how do you choose a therapist? It really depends about your personal style. Do you click with this person? Can you talk to them? Can you talk about what you don't like in the therapy process? Because it can be really useful to be told, actually, this isn't working. I don't want to do that. And that's quite a helpful thing to have as a therapist, people saying what isn't working, because you can always do it a different way. So could you have that honest kind of communication with this therapist? Because if you can, then you're going to be in a very good place to be able to work together. So it's a combination of what it is you need and what the therapist can offer and how flexible they are. Can they meet what you need? I hope this has been helpful. If you'd like to work with me or some of my team, please click on the link below.